In the start of this part, we see a spaceship. Great Space Alliance Empress spaceship. We see Ilho and he is getting married. Yu Ilshin is watching everything. He thinks, did he get seduced by that woman not knowing that she has the god of destruction's blood in her? Get it together, Ilho. Ilho hears his voice. Yu Ilshin says, get it together. That woman is. Suddenly she starts talking. She says, is this the god Yu Ilshin? Her details. Name, Esmeralda. The Empress of the Great Alliance. Once she had the blood of the god of destruction, but she became a normal human with the help of Ilho. Esmeralda was chosen by the god of destruction to be his disciple and was forced to inherit his blood. She resisted against her fate and the god of destruction but failed. She was at her wit's end and was about to give up when Ilho appeared. After a very close battle, Ilho was able to defeat god of destruction's clone. Thanks to him, Esmeralda was freed from the blood leash of the god of destruction. Yu Ilshin says, so that's what happened. Esmeralda says, I heard from Ilho that there is one god he worships, and that I also need to be of assistance to him. I am much weaker from Ilho, but if you'll allow it, I will also offer my faith to you. She worth 10 S-class followers. The faith of Yu Ilshin has been spread to the Great Space Alliance. Yu Ilshin is happy, he thinks, worth 10 S-class followers, and my faith has been spread to the Great Space Alliance. I'll get sweet a lot more followers then, won't I? He says, Ilho, thank you. Congratulations on your marriage. I'll contact you again. Ilho and Esmeralda is happy. Yu Ilshin says that somewhat relieves my worries about the good god quest. Shall I go look for the scale now? 30 minutes later. He says, it must be here. We see there are some statues. He says, is this the god of balance's scale? Do I just take it? Suddenly one statue starts moving. It is a big monster. Yu Ilshin says, I guess it won't be that easy. Well, this should be a piece of cake. He uses God's crushing forefinger, but nothing happens. He says, why isn't my skill working? God's condemning middle finger. He uses all of his skills, but nothing works. System says, warning, there is a ripple in the law of casualty. 95% of skills will be sealed by powerful entity. He thinks, a powerful entity? Someone who possesses that kind of power. It was the god of destruction. He thinks, was this a trap? But I still have 5% of my power, so I need to somehow make it out of here. Ilho, I believe in you. He uses Ilho's super strong body and attack the monster. He thinks, I did it. Only one of my arms was strengthened, but this much should. We see that the monster survives his punch and one more appears. Yu Ilshin says, this would have been doable if it was just one of them. We see a message appear in front of Ilho saying, the perpetual truth seeker uses his principle of cause and effect point to intervene, changing the 45th floor's trial of time and space into the god of balance's ruins. Clear condition. Help Yu Ilshin who has fallen into the god of destruction's trap and obtain the god of balance's scales. Ilho is shocked and says, God Yu Ilshin has fallen into a trap. Esmeralda says that he must be in danger. Ilho says, I think he needs my help right now. Ilho disappears from there and appears in the dungeon. Yu Ilshin says, you're here, Ilho. But you're the same height as me now? Ilho says, I thought you made me taller with your divine power? Perpetual Truth Seeker tells Yu Ilshin that how he sent Ilho there to help Yu Ilshin. But he uses something called, God, there is one hidden word and fragment. Yu Ilshin thinks, I see, but what's God fragment? Ilho says, let's get rid of those guys first. Yu Ilshin says, but Ilho, could I borrow soul armor for a bit? I got all of my divine power sealed. Ilho says, of course. It was originally yours. Now Yu Ilshin is wearing soul armor. He thinks, I do feel bad that I'm taking what I gave to him, but right now it's an emergency. They easily defeat both monsters with just one hit. Yu Ilshin walks toward the big statue and says, so are you the final boss? I'm not that patient. Came at me already. She opened her eyes. She says, where there is light, there is darkness. Where there is life, there must be death. Where there is creation, there must be destruction, creating balance. But when creation disappeared, only destruction remained, leaving it to become a monster that devoured all things in the world. Something happening to Ilho. She says, Yu Ilshin, you two have inherited his blood and blessing. But that won't change anything. Look past the scales at the great enemy. You will see that you are powerless. Scales start shining. After that we see two big monsters. Ilshin is also there, but I think only as a spectator. He thinks their divinity is too high for me to be able to view their stat window, but I can feel it. They're both advanced class evil gods. They're the strong and deceitful beast and the dominator of the Abyss Swamp. Wait, are those two the one that will kill me? Dominator says, we only want one thing from you. It's to bring us the young god who killed our followers and even stole their powers. Monster says that I'll only feel better once I've devoured every bit of flesh and every drop of blood he has. Emperor is standing there. He says, do not order me around. I'm only forming an alliance with you out of temporary need. I am not your subordinate. Ilshin thinks, why is Antria's empire there? And an alliance? What's his plan? Dominator says, you're quite arrogant, new god of Antria. He says, hut up and give me what you promised. Then screw off. Dominator gets angry and says, do you want to die? You're nothing more than an insect to me. He says, you won't be able to kill Ilshin if you do anything to me. I told you. We're allies. Monster says, it's maddening. But he's right. It's true that it'll be much harder to get rid of Ilshin if we don't have him as our ally. Our ally need to have that kind of boldness in order to accomplish great things. All right. You should be honored that we will share our divinity with you. A mortal. Monster share his powers with Emperor. Ilshin uses blind god's eyes to see the history of Emperor. One day, a great dome appeared in Antria. It called itself the tutorial. And within the dome were a little over 10 people who were chosen by a certain god. They had been reduced to the size of a thumb. They were given skills, and they had to kill the bugs within the dome as well as each other, until just one remained. After 250 hours, there are only 3 survivors left. The strongest man out of the group was a firefighter. He threw his child and his mother to the bugs as bait, and at the very moment, he punched the mouth of the bug with all his might. The firefighter lost his right arm and killed the bug. Now there are only 2 survivors remaining. There is 1 egg. System says, congratulations. You have activated Parasitic Young God from the Great Evil God. Skill Feeding has been activated. Feeding is a skill that allows you to absorb the skill of the opponent you eat. In the last remaining egg was the child who had been eaten by the ant with his mom. An amazing ability blessed by the Great Evil God. That child would grow up to be Antria's emperor today. He uses massacring god flames and killed that firefighter. There is 1 survivor. Tutorial is now over. After that, the emperor used his feeding and parasite abilities to absorb the power of the gods native to Antria and made it his empire. That is, until Ilshin appeared. Emperor says, I couldn't take over the ant tribe because of that bastard Ilshin. I can't become a real god if I just eat Anti and Ilho. Isn't that so, Ilshin? Emperor can see the Ilshin spying on him. He says, how long do you intend on spying on me? Isn't it unfair? The power I had to earn by becoming an insect, you earned by just tapping some things on your phone. System says, the intermediate class evil god, cruel lord of insects, has requested a festival of the gods with Ilshin. Ilshin thinks, what? This is just as the nightmare said. She said he's still weaker than me. I can avoid this one. I can't reject a request from someone whose divinity is lower than mine. System says, Festival of the Gods between cruel lot of insects and Ilshin has been created. The seal of war of slaughter and insanity is being burned onto cruel lord of insects and Ilshin. Emperor says, just wait for me, Ilshin. The day I have the advanced class evil god's powers fully in my hands, I will slit your throat. Don't die until then. Ilshin hears Ilho saying, you need to get out of the way. He is back. We see Ilho is barely holding his own against the statue. She says, I was going to kill you before you woke up, but you've escaped the illusion faster than I anticipated. Ilshin thinks, illusion? Did she use a skill on me then? Ilho is very injured. He says, please get out of here. She's too strong. She is about to attack and says, shut up. No one will escape. Ilshin runs to attack and says, come at me. I'll kill you. Ilshin gets thrown away by her. He thinks, I took this much damage despite having the soul armor. Ilho says, I'll take care of things here. You won't lay even a finger on him. She says, how impressive. Most of your abilities should be sealed. Yu Ilshin stands up and says, listen Ilho, no one is allowed to kill my followers while I'm here. I will never run. I would rather die than run. Some kind of authority is activated because of that Yu Ilshin got his 95% powers that were sealed back. This is the second time they are not telling us the skill name properly. One word is also missing this time. Yu Ilshin thinks, my powers are coming back to me? System says, Transcendent Divinity Energy Karma and Sub-Hoodie detected. Check link. New user Yu Ilshin detected. Soul synchronization on 999%. Soul armor has reached Ultimate Armor God realm. She says, what's with this sudden increase in divinity? Yu Ilshin says, it means you're dead. Soul armor cannon God fist. She gets hit by his attack. This is the end of the video. Subscribe for the next part.